This is Robin on the Road, your concierge for all things travel. And today I'd like to take you on the road with me to Buxton, North Carolina, and a tour of the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse. Pack your bags, let's go! On a recent on-the-road trips to the Outer Banks of North Carolina, I had the pleasure of visiting Cape Hatteras Lighthouse. I had been to the lighthouse before, back in 1999, when they moved it 1,500 feet away from the shoreline. Now, 26 years later, that same lighthouse is back in scaffolding for a $20 million repair. I promise you, fellow traveler, it is on my bucket list to visit this lighthouse someday when it's not being worked on. The history of the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse is intertwined with that of the Outer Banks, a series of sandbars along the North Carolina coast. These sand islands, some less than a mile wide, have persisted despite exposure to ocean waves, strong winds, and hurricanes. The Outer Banks are characterized by ongoing geological changes, including growth, erosion, and the formation of new land features. Nicknamed the Graveyard of the Atlantic, this coastline is known for numerous shipwrecks, including famous vessels like the CSS Monitor and the pirate Blackbeard's Queen Anne's Revenge. Early islanders profited by salvaging wrecks, with areas designated for collection and storage. With so many shipwrecks, the Outer Banks are scattered with small graveyards marking the remains of these ships' crews and passengers. The dangerous shoals off the coast of the Outer Banks led to the need for multiple lighthouses. The first Outer Banks lighthouse, at Cape Fear's Bald Head, was authorized in 1783, followed by Ocracoke Islands in 1789. However, the first U.S. lighthouse approved by Congress was Cape Henry in Virginia Beach, which still stands today. The first Hatteras Lighthouse was authorized in May of 1794 and completed around 1802. It featured a 90-foot octagonal stone tower on a foundation that was sunk 13 feet below the water table, topped with a 10-foot oil lantern covered by a dome, making the total height nearly 120 feet, or 100 feet above the ground. The lighthouse had 8 pairs of wooden stairs and included a 2-story keeper's house with a cellar. The structure was built with 2 types of stone and initially criticized for its appearance. Captain C.R. Mumford even called it a national disgrace. In 1854, Congress allocated $15,000 to install a new lens and a lantern and raise the lighthouse to 150 feet. The lens and lantern were destroyed early in the Civil War. A temporary light was installed in 1862, followed by a new lantern in 1863. After the war, with iron stairs estimated to cost about $20,000, Congress begins considering construction of a new lighthouse. The new brick Cape Hatteras Lighthouse, standing 208 feet tall according to the National Park Service, was constructed 600 feet northeast of the original site. Work began in November of 1868, with engineers creating a foundation from cross-laid yellow pine timbers below the water level. These timbers only decayed when they were exposed to the air during the lighthouse's relocation. The lighthouse features 268 steps to the lantern room at 184 feet above sea level. This was first lit on December 6, 1870. Not long after, the old lighthouse was demolished. However, its original foundation remains just off the coast. For 150 years, the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse faced threats from shifting sands and shoreline erosion. Despite attempts like bulkheads and sandbags, erosion persisted, and a backup steel structure was put up in 1935, prompting the lighthouse's abandonment. Then, in 1988, officials recommended that the lighthouse be relocated inland. But how? The answer was found in a chimney moving company. The $11.8 million project to relocate the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse will move it 2,900 feet southwest, restoring its position to a secure distance of 1,500 feet from the shoreline. This undertaking is a collaborative effort involving the International Chimney Company, the National Park Service, and numerous volunteers, all working to preserve this historic structure. The relocation process spans 23 days and begins June 17th. The Cape Hatteras Lighthouse will be relit on November 13th, 1999. For me, this project highlights human ingenuity. To move the lighthouse, a 6-foot deep trench was dug to reveal its foundation, which was then separated using a diamond-tipped cable saw. Granite stones were replaced with 14 steel cross beams and 7 main beams, forming a 400-ton platform for the move. The oil house and keeper's quarters will be relocated first. A 60 by 60 by 4 reinforced concrete pad is poured at the new site. The 2,900-foot path for the move will be cleared and graded up to 100 feet wide. 100 hydraulic jacks, operated from a central console, were used to gradually raise the lighthouse platform in 12-inch increments. After each lift, wood cribbing was added beneath for support. This process was repeated until the platform was elevated by a total of 7 feet. A 700-foot rail system composed of multiple sections was constructed beneath and in front of the lighthouse. As the lighthouse advanced off the rail section, that section was dismantled from the rear and reassembled at the front. Each section featured compacted gravel as a stable foundation, steel mats atop the gravel to create a smooth surface, and 7 steel travel beams anchored onto the mats. 100 Hillman rollers were positioned on these beams just below and in front of the lighthouse before the tower was initially lowered onto the travel rails. Ivory soap was applied to lubricate the rollers. The relocation begins on June 17, 1999. 5 long-arm unified hydraulic push jacks attached to the last rail section propel the lighthouse forward over the Hillman rollers in 5-foot increments. Following each movement, the push jack and rollers are repositioned for the next advancement, with each push requiring approximately 1 minute. July 9, 1999, the lighthouse finished its 23-day location. After arriving at the concrete pad, in its new position, it was placed onto shoring towers. Approximately 145,000 high-strength bricks were used to construct a new support foundation. As construction progressed, the shoring towers were removed and the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse was positioned at its new site after moving 2,900 feet, moving an average of 130 feet a day. Realize the process of erosion began the day they put it on its pad, and it is possible that someday, a few hundred years from now, the lighthouse will need to be moved again. But at least we know how to do it this time. A scenic trail around Cape Hatteras Lighthouse shares the story of its location and highlights the island's surfing culture. With 43 miles of drive-on beaches for swimming, windsurfing, fishing, picnicking, it's the ideal spot for water sports and relaxation. The renovated Lighthouse Keeper's home now serves as a museum, showcasing the history of Cape Hatteras and its renowned lighthouse, including the 1999 relocation. My first visit to Cape Hatteras Lighthouse and the others on the Outer Banks sparked my interest in both their stories and that of this region. The museum recognizes lighthouse keepers and members of the U.S. Life-Saving Services. The Outer Banks shoals are infamous for shipwrecks. Thousands have occurred here. Some, like the steamship Brewster, saw all aboard rescued, but most were tragic, such as the USS Heron in 1877, which sank with all 98 crew, or the CSS Monitor, now resting in 225 feet of water within the National Marine Sanctuary. Although World War II is mainly associated with Europe and Japan, German U-boats also threatened the U.S. East Coast. After Germany declared war on the U.S. in December 1941, Operation Drumbeat began, resulting in nearly 400 ships sunk along the coast. About 70 of these were off the Outer Banks, which was dubbed Torpedo Junction. With no dedicated anti-submarine fleet, the U.S. received British naval assistance. In April 1942, the British tanker San Delfino was sunk near Cape Hatteras. 28 of the 50 men on board perished. Local citizens honored the lost sailors with military ceremony, a tradition that continues annually at the British Naval Cemetery. German submarines operated from the Chesapeake Bay to the Outer Banks, sinking nearly one ship per day until improved technology and more patrols reduced their threat. The USS Roper notably became the first U.S. ship to sink a U-boat, after dodging a torpedo from U-85 in April of 1942. This is one of several British cemeteries located on the Outer Banks. In 1903, two bicycle repairmen from Ohio utilized the wind conditions and geography of the Outer Banks to achieve the first manned flight of an airplane in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. This event marked the Outer Banks as a significant location in aviation history, in addition to the previous association with maritime navigation challenges. For this on-the-road trip, I stayed at the Lighthouse View Oceanfront Lodging in the Outer Banks. From my balcony, I could see signs of coastal erosion. Some nearby cottages have already been lost, and this property may not last much longer. The room was clean, comfortable, and offered stunning views. I highly recommend it. I enjoyed listening to the waves and walking to the lighthouse. One evening, I watched a fisherman land a 4-foot shark on the beach below, photograph it, and then release it back into the sea. I highly recommend a visit to Cape Hatteras Lighthouse, combined with staying at the Lighthouse View Oceanfront Lodging. This offers an excellent introduction to the Outer Banks. This destination features unique qualities that attract many visitors and encourage repeat trips. Whether one enjoys beaches, surfing, fishing, boating, seafood, or history, the Outer Banks has a broad appeal. Visitors can experience the lively atmosphere of the northern communities such as Nags Head and Kill Devil Hills, or enjoy the quieter and more rugged coastlines found in Buxton, Frisco, and Ocracoke. Things to know before you go. The Hatteras Island District begins south of Oregon Inlet and includes the Pea Island National Wildlife Refuge. The island continues for 50 miles until its terminus at Hatteras Inlet and includes the villages of Rodanthe, Waves, Salvo, Avon, Buxton, Frisco, and Hatteras Village. Cape Hatteras Lighthouse is open 24/7 except Christmas Day. Admission and parking are free, and there's ample space for most visitors and tour groups. The Museum of the Sea is located in the former lighthouse keeper's quarters. This two-story museum features exhibits about the history of the lighthouse and the natural history of the Outer Banks. There is a small audiovisual room that offers video presentations upon request. The gift shop operates daily from 9 to 5:30. Restoration on the lighthouse is scheduled for completion in early 2026. When open, there will be an admission fee to climb inside the lighthouse. My stay at the Lighthouse View Oceanfront Lodge was pleasant. However, please note that the amenities such as breakfast or water equipment rentals are not included. Conveniently located across the street, Fat's Restaurant offered quality hamburgers and a variety of pub fare, as well as ice cream. Realize that during the summer months, visitors should anticipate large crowds and extended wait times. Highway 12 is the sole route leading into Cape Hatteras Lighthouse. Traffic can become quite congested in peak season. Both Visitor Center and the walking trail surrounding the lighthouse are accessible for individuals with mobility impairments. However, please note that there is no elevator within the lighthouse itself. Visitors with height restrictions or concerns should be advised that climbing the lighthouse may not be suitable for them. Several hiking trails connect to the lighthouse, including the 4.5-mile one-way Open Ponds Trail, which links Frisco Campground and the British Cemetery with Cape Hatteras Lighthouse. Swimming and surfing are permitted at the beach 24 hours a day, with lifeguards on duty from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. between Memorial Day and Labor Day. Permits are available for driving vehicles on the beach. However, access may be limited due to seasonal or wildlife-related closures. Until 1963, this section of the Outer Banks was only accessible by ferry. As a result, residents relied heavily on what was available locally, and receiving essential goods such as mail, food items, sugar, coffee, and tea via ferry deliveries was a significant event. The museum poses an intriguing question. If you lived on a remote island without stores or overnight delivery, which item would you most look forward to in your monthly ferry shipment? This prompts considerable reflection. I invite you to share your thoughts on what you might choose. Personally, one of the most rewarding aspects of my time at Cape Hatteras Lighthouse and Buxton, Carolina, was sharing them with you, fellow traveler. Lastly, I would like to thank you, fellow traveler. I greatly appreciate that you take the time out of your busy day to watch and comment on my videos. If you enjoy the content, please consider subscribing, liking the video, and providing feedback or suggestions. Your engagement is valued, and these videos are created with your interest in mind. I also invite you to view my latest video on Chipokes Plantation State Park. Until next time, this is Robin on the Road, your concierge for all things travel, and I hope to see you out there on a road of your own. Until then, safe travels!